This is my best atmosphere games tier list, ranked purely on my personal experience. Each game is placed from masterpiece down to trash, based on how strong and memorable the atmosphere felt while playing. Let's dive right into it. Cyberpunk 2077 is one of those games where the atmosphere hits me the moment I step into the world, because Night City never feels quiet or empty, no matter where I go. I'm constantly surrounded by neon lights, giant screens, traffic noise, distant sirens, and people living their own lives, and it makes the city feel alive in a way few games manage. I love just driving around at night, listening to the radio, watching the rain reflect off the streets, and soaking in the mood without even doing a mission. The sound design, the music, and the sheer density of the city work together to create this heavy, futuristic vibe that feels both exciting and lonely at the same time. Even with its rough edges, the atmosphere always pulls me back in, and for me, that's why Cyberpunk 2077 earns its place in the masterpiece tier. Alien Isolation builds an atmosphere that makes me feel unsafe every second I'm inside the station, even when nothing is happening. The silence, the distant metal sounds, the flickering lights, and that motion tracker slowly beeping create constant tension, and I'm always expecting something to go wrong. I spend a lot of time hiding, listening, and moving slowly, and that fear never feels scripted or predictable. The space station feels cold, empty, and hostile, and the sound design does most of the work in making me nervous without showing anything on screen. Every hallway feels dangerous, and every small noise feels important. That pressure never really lets up, and because of how intense and consistent that feeling is, Alien Isolation earns its masterpiece spot without needing to say a word. Baldur's Gate 3 creates an atmosphere that makes me feel like I'm part of a living fantasy world, not just playing inside one. Every area feels carefully crafted, from quiet forests to dark cursed lands and busy city streets full of voices and movement. I hear people gossip, argue, pray, and panic, and it makes the world feel believable and alive. The music changes gently depending on where I am, and conversations feel personal because characters react to what I say and do. Even small places feel important, like something meaningful happened there before I arrived. The atmosphere stays rich and consistent across the entire journey, and that strong sense of place is why Baldur's Gate 3 lands in the excellent tier for me. Hades has an atmosphere that feels energetic and stylish, but it also keeps pulling me back emotionally every time I return to the underworld. The art style is bold and colorful, the animations are sharp, and the music instantly sets the mood for each area I move through. Even though I'm repeating runs, the world never feels stale, because characters react to my failures and successes, making death feel like part of the story instead of a reset. The voice acting, the sharp dialogue, and the way Greek myth is reimagined give the game a strong identity that's easy to connect with. Everything feels tightly woven together, and that sense of personality and consistency is why Hades earns an excellent placement on my atmosphere list. Fallout 2 gives me an atmosphere that feels harsh, strange, and unpredictable from the moment I step into the wasteland. The world feels broken but lived in, with quiet towns, dangerous roads, and people who often feel more threatening than the monsters. The music is low and eerie, and long stretches of silence make every encounter feel tense and uncertain. I like how dark humor, violence, and hopelessness all mix together, making the world feel uncomfortable but honest. Every location has its own mood, and my choices make that world feel even colder or crueler depending on how I play. That strong, gritty tone sticks with me long after I stop playing, which is why Fallout 2 earns a place in the excellent tier on this list. Star Wars Jedi Survivor completely fails to create a strong atmosphere for me, even though it looks impressive on the surface. The worlds feel big but oddly empty, and I never feel truly connected to the places I'm exploring. The music and sound design don't leave much of an impression, and most areas blur together instead of having a clear mood or identity. Even important story moments feel rushed, which makes it hard for any tension or emotion to settle in. I'm moving, fighting, and progressing, but I rarely feel anything while doing it. Because the world never pulls me in or sticks with me, this ends up sitting right at the bottom of my atmosphere tier list as straight-up trash. Escape from Tarkov creates an atmosphere that keeps my heart racing from the moment a raid begins until I finally escape, if I'm lucky. The silence is heavy, broken only by distant gunfire, footsteps, or a door creaking somewhere nearby, and every sound feels important. I move slowly, listen carefully, and constantly feel like someone is watching me, even when nothing happens for minutes. The realistic weapons, harsh environments, and lack of music make everything feel raw and stressful, like survival always comes before action. When I extract with loot, the relief feels real, and when I die, the loss actually hurts. That constant tension and fear define the experience, and that's why Escape from Tarkov stands as a true masterpiece when it comes to atmosphere. Bloodborne surrounds me with an atmosphere that feels oppressive, mysterious, and unforgettable from the first step into its world. The streets are dark and twisted, filled with distant screams, unsettling whispers, and creatures that look like they crawled out of a nightmare. I never feel safe walking through Yharnam, and the silence between fights often feels more frightening than the battles themselves. The Gothic architecture, strange symbols, and vague storytelling make me question what's real and what isn't, pulling me deeper into its madness. Every discovery feels earned, and every moment carries weight and dread. That overwhelming sense of fear and curiosity never fades, and because of that, Bloodborne belongs at the very peak of this list as a masterpiece of atmosphere. Total War Warhammer III gives me an atmosphere that feels loud, chaotic, and constantly on edge, like the world is always close to falling apart. The dark fantasy setting is heavy with war, monsters, and rival powers, and every faction brings its own mood to the map. When armies clash, the scale, sound, and visuals make battles feel overwhelming in a good way, especially when demons and magic are involved. The campaign feels urgent, with pressure coming from all sides, which keeps the tension high even when I'm not fighting. While it doesn't fully pull me in emotionally the way the very top games do, the sense of conflict and spectacle is strong throughout, earning Total War Warhammer III a clear spot in the great tier for atmosphere. Red Dead Redemption 2 surrounds me with an atmosphere that feels slow, heavy, and incredibly real, like I'm living inside a fading world. The landscapes feel vast and quiet, with long rides where I hear only the wind, my horse's footsteps, and distant wildlife. Towns feel busy and alive, while camps feel warm, tense, and personal, especially as relationships change over time. The lighting, weather, and sound design make every moment feel grounded, whether I'm riding through foggy forests or watching the sun set over open plains. The world doesn't rush me, and that patience makes everything feel meaningful. Because of how deeply it pulls me into its time, place, and mood, Red Dead Redemption 2 earns its place as a masterpiece of atmosphere. Hogwarts Legacy has a pleasant atmosphere, but it never fully clicks for me in a lasting way. Walking through Hogwarts is charming at first, with moving staircases, talking portraits, and small magical details that clearly had a lot of care put into them. The castle looks impressive and feels busy on the surface, but after a while it starts to feel more like a theme park than a real school. Outside the castle, the world is large but often feels empty and repetitive, and the cozy student life feeling slowly fades as combat and checklist tasks take over. There are moments where the magic works, especially early on, but it doesn't hold that mood consistently. Because of that uneven feeling, Hogwarts Legacy lands in the mediocre tier when it comes to atmosphere. Elden Ring builds an atmosphere that constantly fills me with wonder, tension, and unease. Every time I ride into a new area, I feel small, like I've stepped into a world that doesn't care if I survive or not. The landscapes are vast and haunting, with ruined castles, empty fields, and strange figures watching from afar. Silence often breaks into sudden danger, and that contrast keeps me alert at all times. Exploration feels rewarding because I never know what I'll find next, whether it's beauty, horror, or both at once. That mix of freedom, mystery, and quiet dread stays with me long after I stop playing, which is why Elden Ring earns its place as a masterpiece of atmosphere. Mass Effect 2 pulls me into its world through strong characters and constant tension rather than sheer scale alone. Every mission feels personal because I'm not just saving the galaxy, I'm building trust with people who might die depending on my choices. The Normandy feels like a real home, and talking to my crew between missions makes the stakes feel heavier each time we head out. Each location has its own mood, from dark space stations to quiet alien worlds, and the music and dialogue tie it all together smoothly. By the time I reach the final mission, I genuinely care about who survives and who doesn't. That emotional weight and sense of connection place Mass Effect 2 inches the excellent tier. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade feels polished and enjoyable, but it doesn't fully leave a strong impression on me. Midgar looks sharper and more detailed than ever, and the lighting and animations make familiar locations feel fresh again. Playing as Yuffie brings a lighter tone that's fun at first, and seeing the city from her point of view adds some variety. That said, the new content is short, and parts of it lean too much on side activities that start to feel repetitive. Combat is still solid, just not as impactful as the main game's best moments. Overall, it's a nice upgrade and a welcome addition, but it doesn't reach the higher tiers, placing Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade comfortably in the good tier. Arc Raiders keeps me tense and focused every time I drop into a match. Every run feels risky because I'm constantly deciding whether to fight, hide, or extract before losing everything. The world feels hostile and unforgiving, with massive machines roaming the map and danger pulling me in from all directions. Gunfights are slow and deliberate, making every bullet and reload matter, especially when other players are nearby. Even losing gear doesn't feel crushing, because progress always feels within reach. That balance of pressure, teamwork, and steady progression makes Arc Raiders stand out, and that's why it earns a great spot on this list.